So the big problem is in my garden is even though I'm trying myself to try and reduce the ants and the aphids, there are no natural predators at present at the moment helping me out. So as you can see, no matter what I'm trying, the aphids and the ants are still present on all my trees and plants. Because there's so much I can do, but I need to have the natural predators to try and help me try and reduce the problems so the plants in my garden are able to live and actually grow properly. So my plan is I'm going to try and make a homemade ladybug house so I'm able to attract ladybugs into my garden to try and help with this problem. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to be making a little ladybug house for my garden. So this is what we're going to be using to make our ladybug house, and that is an old recycled pallet. We're going to be using the underside of the pallet because the wood on the underside is more wider than the wood on the top. So now I'm just going to show you what tools I'm going to be using. So the tools we're going to need are quite simple. It's literally a pencil, a straight edge to try and get our line straight, a drill, a tape measure because we need to know how long we're going to be cutting, a screwdriver, or better than screwdriver, if you've got an impact driver with a screwdriver bit on the end. We need some screws and a saw. You can do this by hand if you want to, but if you have an electric saw, it will make this a lot easier and a lot faster. Alright, so now onto our first bit of wood, and this is the most important one because this is going to indicate how tall our ladybird house is going to be. So, I'm going to do a straight edge here, like so, and then use the tape measure, and I'm going to want to make it, I'm not going to make it massive, so I'm only going to make it about 7 inches high, because I don't want to make it too big. Straight edge that as well. And then we've got our first bit that we need to cut. There we go. Alright, that is our first one. Now we need another 2 of these. So what we can simply do is use this as a template, put it straight on top of the pallet, draw a line like so, and now start cutting and get another 2 of these. Right, so I got my first 3 lots of wood. They are similar in height. You ain't gonna get them perfect, not without using proper tools and equipment. So now we're gonna be using these panels to basically build up our start of this house. And this is going to be the back wall. The other 2 are going to be the side walls. So what we're gonna do with the back wall, we're gonna put in the side wall, not on the edge like so. We're gonna be putting it on the inside like this. So what we need to do now is put these into position and put 2 screws, one at the top and one at the bottom. So what we'll do, we'll start off by drilling 2 little pilot holes in the side here, like so. We'll put this on top, on the area where it should be. Try and hold it as good as you can. Now we're going to drill through the hole again. And that should give us our holes in the wood in which we're going to be putting our screws into. That one's a little bit far over, but it should still be okay if the screws you're going to be using. And that one's okay. And we'll try and get it as center as we can into the wood. And now we simply put our 2 screws in. So that is the first part. So now we do exactly the same on the other side. Right, so now we've half made it. We've made the back, the 2 sides, we're going to leave the front open, but now we need a roof and we're going to need a bottom. So what we've got to do now is now measure how big we want our roof and how big we want the floor. What we're going to be doing now, instead of making the floor and the roof the same length as what this is already, we're going to make them slightly longer. Just because it's just going to look a little bit better and it should stop the rain entering inside the ladybug house. The width shouldn't be a problem because the width is going to be the same size as what the pallet wood is anyway. It's just the length that we're measuring. So at the moment, it is just under 5 inches. So if we cut some wood at about 6 inches in length, that should do us for the floor and the roof. So like I said, 6 inches is what we need. Let's mark out a nice bit of 6 inch. Let's get a nice line. Now, we're going to make 2 of these. Right, so I've got my next 2 panels cut. So now what we're going to do is put them on top like this. We're going to drill 4 holes in here, same as what we did before, screw it down, and we're going to repeat it on the other side as well. Alright, that's the bottom done. Now onto the top. Alright, so now that is looking good. That is the first part done. The first step is to get the foundations in place, and we have made a nice little home for the ladybugs to go in. So now on to step 2. But if you do have something like this at home anyway, something similar, you can skip this step completely out in making one. This was just a way that I'm able to make a little home for the ladybirds by using an old pallet. Step 2 is the most interesting part, is because you have now got to decorate this thing. Before we want to use it as a home, we're going to need to decorate it in order to make it unique to our garden and also to protect it from rain and other sorts of weathers so it can last a lot longer. But what I advise you to do is to sand it first. And in order for us to sand it, we're going to have to strip it back down. So you haven't got to strip it back down again in order to paint it, but the reason I'm doing it is because I want to sand down all the blocks individually and give them a good coat of paint, because I do want this to last a long time. So it's just personal preference, and also where I have cut the wood, and it being an old pallet, has got a load of sharp edges on it. So I want to try and smooth them out first. So the reason why I'm stripping it down is so I can sand it, and then I can then paint them all individually and then put it all back together. Let's get sanding. I'm using some 80 grit sandpaper. You can sand it down by your hand, but I have got an electronic one, so it will make it easier. And simply, I'm just going to try and sand this down best I can to try and make it look nice and smooth. That's the first one sanded. A lot more cleaner. And if I compare it to this one here, you can tell the difference. So I just got to finish these 4 off. But another good reason why I have sanded it is when I do come to paint it, it will soak in a lot easier as well. So another bonus and why you should sand it. And this is what it looks like now. All sanded down, all built back up. But I'm going to paint it off camera just because, like I said, it's what everyone else wants to do. It's just your unique way of being able to decorate it. Now on to part 3. So the next step is making the home inside the house for the ladybugs, and I'm going to be using bamboo to do this. And luckily I know someone who's got some bamboo growing in the garden, so I'm going to be using some of their offcuts to do this with. So I've got my bamboo sticks that I've managed to forage from the garden, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut them down into sizes that will fit into my little house. Let's just say it's about 4 inches deep, so if I cut them about between 9 and 10 centimeters, that'd be perfect for this, because we don't want them sticking out, we want them slightly inside. Alright, so just like that. That fits perfectly inside. So now I've just got to try and cut the rest of them up now. Alright, look at that. That is perfect. I've managed to cut all of them to roughly the right size to fit in, and they're all nicely wedged in. But what I'm going to have to do now, I'm going to have to get my drill. I'm going to have to drill some of these holes out, because if you look, some of them, the holes are nowhere near big enough to let ladybirds in. So I'm going to have to choose the right ones and basically drill out all the holes so the ladybirds can actually fit inside the bamboo. So as you can see, sometimes you can get lucky and get the bamboo that has already got a hole big enough. But if not, you simply just get your drill and then just drill it out a little bit. But just be careful with your fingers not to get caught in the drill. You don't have to use bamboo to fill up your little house for your ladybugs. They can be other things like pine cones and grass or hay or something like that. Something just where they can nestle inside. But I'm just going to use some bamboo, and I'm going to crack on now and drill out all these bamboo sticks. Hey, and this is the final outcome. I am well chuffed about this. It's put a bit of effort into doing this, and it actually has come out quite nice. The good thing about using the bamboo sticks is there's no glue involved in it, so I haven't had to stick them down inside. If it was too loose, I just kept adding more and more bamboo sticks inside. So now to the point where they are basically forced and wedged inside. Although this is now ready to rock and roll, the ladybirds themselves might not be ready to be attracted to this yet. So there's a couple of other things we're going to have to do now in order to get the ladybirds into our nice new house. First important thing about this house is we're going to have to find a perfect location for it. We can't have this on the ground. It needs to be somewhere up high. It's because we don't want to put it on the ground and then the wood lice and the ants use this as a nest instead. So we're going to put this in this plant pot here behind this bush, because it's elevated and there isn't no insects in this plant plot at the moment, so the ladybirds wouldn't have a bad time trying to fight them off for the house. So next they need a source of water. So what I've done is I've made like a little rock pool area so they can be able to get onto the rocks and drink the water, and as it rains it should fill back up, and it's not far away from the house at all. So one of the most important ways of attracting ladybirds is not only is the aphids and the other pests on your other plants, is flowers. Certain type of flowers do attract ladybirds, so it's quite important to try and get a mixture of wildflowers and other type of flowers in your garden as well. Try and increase the odds of them being naturally attracted to your garden. But there's a way that we can force the ladybirds to go into the house we just made, and that is by using raisins. For some reason they love raisins and they're very attracted to it, But there is something that we've got to do first in order to get these ready for them, because we can't just put them in as they are now. So first thing we're going to do with the raisins is we're going to put them in some water and let them soak for up to 5 minutes. What this does, it makes the raisins more softer, so it's easier for the ladybugs to actually eat. Now that it's been more than 5 minutes, we can now dry out these raisins, because they need to be dry, otherwise they might be too soggy. Right, now that they're all dry, we're just going to simply cut them into halves, because now the inside should be so much more easier for the ladybirds to eat. So now we're going to put the raisins themselves into the holes, like you can see, to try and prompt them to go inside, to think that this is going to be a nice little home for them. But if you can't get them inside the holes, you can still just place them around the sides, because it should still attract them, and it should try and move them into the house. So now that this is all done, I'm going to wait now for a week and see if I've had any success, and hopefully we'll get some ladybirds or some ladybugs living in here soon, and are going to help me with my aphid problem. Right, so it's been a week now, and let's just say we haven't had no ladybugs, but we got something else instead. We have got ladybug larvae. I'm quite happy about that. As you can see, the ladybug larvae are starting to stick around closer to the ladybug house that I've built. I have put some apple trees in this pot as well to try and get some of the aphids that are on them to attract the ladybirds here as well. But the good thing about the larvae is they actually eat more aphids than the actual ladybugs themselves. As they're trying to grow into ladybugs, they tend to eat a lot more, so it's actually more positive to see larvae than it is actual ladybugs. So yeah, I would say that was a complete success. Hopefully give it a couple more weeks and I'll get even more turn up, and then slowly I should see the aphid problem start dying down. So I hope you guys did enjoy me making a ladybug house and seeing that it actually has worked, but it has took a lot of time for it to work, but it will work. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy.